Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this webinar about Certificate Management Best Practices Part 2. Let me go here. So we had a first, if this is the Part 2 meeting, we also had a Part 1 meeting. So the Part 1 meeting was more about SSL and TLS management. Now we're going to go a little bit wider and speak about everything to do with X509 certificates. So not only SSL certificates. A little bit the intro, what we're going to talk about, a little bit about us, about TrustCubes, about me, the speaker, about Bas, and then we're going to go into the certificate management best practices. We try to keep it very educational, so we're not going to show our platform or we're not going into depth in the platform. If you want to see the platform we offer, then of course, afterwards you can contact us. We're happy to give you a demo or we're happy to give you a POC or whatever you would like. Yeah, we try to keep it very educational and talk a little bit about what are the best practices, whatever platform you would use, right? And then we have the questions Q&A session. About us, about TrustCubes, me, myself, I'm Johan Bloemen. My background in cybersecurity is mostly when I started working at GlobalSign, so it's mostly in PKI. Afterwards, I did some certifications like ISO 27001. I do a lot around GRC. That's a little bit my background. I started TrustCubes in 2017, and we really wanted to give a wider approach to cybersecurity, like a layered approach. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about that. During my time at GlobalSign, I was already working closely with KeyTalk, with Bas. Bas is someone who has more than 25 experience in IT. He started as an entrepreneur with his own CRM solution. Yeah, he led that solution to a successful business for over 15 years, and now he's more than 5 years already at KeyTalk as sales director. Me and Bas, we worked together already for quite a while, and I think we even became close friends due to this working relationship, right? So TrustCubes, a layered approach to cybersecurity. So what we want to do, we started actually with PKI, we started with issuing SSL and TLS certificates, and we took that wider, right? We think cybersecurity is not only PKI, but there are a lot of more cubes, a lot of more building blocks that you need to address your cybersecurity needs within your company and to make sure that you have the protection in place. So here are a little bit the cubes that we offer: SSL PKI management, web security, where you have a website firewall, vulnerability, malware scanning. We do document signing, not only the certificates, but the complete workflow tool. We do some remote KYC solutions where you can just take a selfie and make sure that you know your customers remotely, which is very important in these days where people are not coming in the office anymore and everyone's working from home. A very important one where we focus on heavily is security awareness. We'll do a webinar about this as well, explaining a little bit more about the human risk in cybersecurity. If you look at most of the breaches that happened, most of them happened because someone clicked the phishing email and people were not doing what they should do, rather than a system failure, right? So this is a very important one, security and awareness training for your staff. We have some GRC software, mostly focused around ISO 27001. We do secure email solutions. We're also going to have a very good webinar 2 weeks from now, talking about business email compromise and how you can avoid that. And then we do some other things as well, and this depends a little bit on our customers, what they need. For example, not so long ago, we did a red teaming exercise together with a bank, yeah, where they were the blue team, we were the red team, and we tested their incident response. So these are a lot of things we do and where we can help you, right? TrustCubes, where we're located, our headquarters is in the UK. We have a registered office in Belgium. Me, myself, I'm located in Finland. And then in blue, we wanted to mention a few of our partners. We have quite a few partners across the globe, but these ones in blue are really our national distributors or are really TrustCubes in the region. So after this webinar, if you're located in India, Bangladesh, Malaysia, or Chile, these partners will follow up and they will assist you with everything you need. So for Malaysia, it's BitShield. For Bangladesh, it's Dhaka Distributions. ECAPS is our national distributor in India. And then in Chile, we work with Securitas Americas. Okay, here you see a few of our customers. We have big customers, small customers, all around the globe. So here are a few of them. Okay, so let's go into the more educational part, yeah, a little bit less about TrustCubes and a little bit more about what you should do with certificate management. And for the people who were at the SSLTLS Management Part 1, it's where we share 10 tips, 10 steps that you have to follow if you want to have a good SSL and TLS management. Yeah, and this is the same for certificate management. You need to have a certificate management policy, right? You need to talk around, okay, these are the encryption methods that we're going to use. We are going to say we're not going to use SHA-1 anymore. We're going to make sure that everything is SHA-2. We look at vulnerabilities, all of that. You need to have that written down in a policy, right? I'm not going into depth about these 10 points. If you want to know more about this, you can, of course, look at the recording of a previous webinar, or if you already was part of it, then you already know. Now, we do have a platform that can help with this TLS management, and this is Search Central. And a lot of you who already attended the first meeting are already using Search Central, and they are using it to scan for SSL certificates, both external, public domains and also internal domains. Now, I told you on previous webinar, there are 4 things where I want to go more in depth in the second part. And this is, of course, you need to centralize your certificate management. And now we want to talk about not only your SSL and TLS management, but also client certificates. Yeah, all the other X509 certificates. You need to scan your network. And we gave you a great free tool to scan your network for SSL certificates. But what about the SMIME certificates you have or the client certificates you have, which in most cases are much more than the SSL certificates you have, right? Are they having any vulnerabilities? Yeah, that's something very important to know. Then issue certificates from a fully managed PKI. A lot of people use Microsoft CA, but if you don't have a policy and you don't have people with PKI knowledge, yeah, then this often goes wrong and they just issue whatever, not knowing what they're doing. So it's very important that you or outsource this, yeah, or use a platform, or make sure that you have people who are aware and that this PKI that you use is fully managed. And then the last point where we want to talk about a little bit more today as well is enable automation. So we talked about SSL automation, and you have the ACME protocol that can be, which is a client on the server, which can automatically install these certificates. Yeah, so you don't have this manual work anymore. The only thing you need to think about is decommissioning. Yeah, but the rest will all go automatically. Yeah, and this is something you should actually extend not only for SSL certificates, but it's also possible for any device. Yeah. So if you look at the current infrastructure of an enterprise, it became more and more complex, right? These days we have IoT devices, yeah, we have cars that are connected to the internet, we have fridges that are connected to the internet, we have a light bulb that might be connected to the internet. So you have all these IoT devices that are connected to the internet, right? And they need a sort of authentication when they're going to be connected to your network. And you need to know who that device is, right? You need to know that is the device from my company, yeah? And you need to know which device that is connecting to, yeah? And that's where authentication certificates are used, for example. You have SMIME certificates. These are also client certificates, but for a user. They can be used for a user to also authenticate to the network, but they can also be used for signing emails, yeah, making sure that the email you send is hashed and that people know from who it comes. And also it can be used to encrypt emails, yeah, if you have sensitive data, confidential data that you want to send across, you want that email to be encrypted. Yeah, you have code signing certificates, you might even have document signing certificates within your organization. So all these certificates are all X509 certificates, and you need to make sure that they are centralized, managed, and that you make sure that there are no vulnerabilities. Right. So the first bit is centralize everything. Make sure you have everything in one platform. Then do a scanning. Yeah, we already told you how to do the SSL scanning, but now we're going to actually present to you, and maybe after this meeting, if you want to know more about this, a tool which can scan across your whole organization for every X509 certificate. Yeah. Then you need to automate. You need to make sure that there is on every device, for every user, for example, in Active Directory, that you can instantly issue a certificate. You need to automate that. And think about, I said the last time, the validity of certificates are becoming shorter and shorter, right? We went from 5-year certificates to today 1-year certificates for SSL. But even in IoT environments, we're talking about certificates that maybe are valid for the session. And I also told you last time that the shorter the length of the certificate, the validity, actually the more secure it is, because the less time the hacker would have to actually crack the code, right? So it's actually something we're going to, right? We're going to certificates that are maybe valid for 1 month or valid for the session, right? So it's quite important that you then automate the enrollment from these certificates. Yeah, you don't want to manually install. Make sure you have a backup CA, and I'll go a little bit more in depth on the next slide. What can go wrong? But your certificate authority can be your point of failure. Now, it sounds very unlikely, but it did happen in the past that a certificate authority was hacked and misissued certificates, and then the browsers decided to actually revoke those certificates, and they were not public certificates anymore, right? They would show an error message. So make sure you have a backup CA with the same automations tool that you can switch over if something happens immediately. Make sure it's fully managed. I already covered that. And then how you want to deploy it. So we work with a few banks that want everything on premise right now, right? So we have some different ways how we can deploy things. We can do it in the cloud. We can do it in an in-country cloud. Yeah, we can do it in a private environment, right? Private AWS environment, for example, or we can do it on premise, right? And this depends a little bit on your certificate policy. This depends a little bit on your organization, what you want to do. Okay. So here is a big example of the day that the CA got hacked. And I don't know if you still remember this, DigiNotar. This was in 2011. And this all got started because one Iranian man went to the site from Google and said, hey, I cannot access my Google account. And Google investigated what happened. And what actually happened is that DigiNotar, a certificate authority, misissued a certificate for Google. And what happened is actually that they expect the Iranian government to be involved. They actually hacked DigiNotar. They went into the system and they issued a certificate for a fake Google site, a phishing site, to actually get people on that site and to actually get access to people their credentials to actually read their Gmail, right? And this is very, very bad, because if the government was behind it, back then in Iran, if you said something wrong, you could get killed, right? If you said something negative about the government, you could get killed. So how did it happen that this one guy couldn't access his Google account? Luckily, Google already was pinpointing their certificates, and they noticed immediately that, hey, you cannot access this website. Yeah, because we never requested a certificate from DigiNotar. So, and this led into a lot of initiatives that we use today, like certificate transparency, right? But immediately after that happened, DigiNotar got added to the revocation list, and all the customers of DigiNotar had a problem, right? They needed to switch their certificates immediately to a new CA, yeah, because DigiNotar became on the revocation list. Yeah. Now, is this the only time this happened? No. A little bit later in 2015, you have an Egyptian company who was actually having their own registration authority for a CA called Cynic, right? And they also misissued a few certificates, again, for Google. In the summer of 2016, you had this Chinese CA, WuSign, yeah, who who got hacked and then misissued certificates for GitHub and Alibaba. Right, and a lot of actions were taken. I told you already about certificate transparency, but also the Certificate Authority Security Council was born then to make sure that these type of incidents wouldn't happen anymore. But then in 2017, and I think everyone still remembers this, yeah, the biggest the biggest organizations that were issuing certificates was Semantic and Komodo at the time, which is now called Sectico. They were the two biggest CA providers, and the biggest one, Semantic, was actually at some point told by Google, what you're doing is not correct. First, they got a warning in 2015 where they misissued certificates, and it were certificates for like test.com, example.com, and instead of keeping that in an environment where they wouldn't issue a real certificate, they actually issued real certificates for that. Yeah. So Google told them, hey, this is something you need to get under control. They also had some problems with some of their partners who were misissuing certificates. You have to make sure that you carry the responsibility, or you do an audit, or you don't allow your partners to actually have that control. And then in 2017, it went wrong again, 11 September. And at that point, when Google discovered all these misissued certificates from Semantic, they said, okay, we don't longer have trust in you as an organization, that you know what you're doing and that you know how to issue certificates correctly, right? So what we are going to do as Google Chrome, we're going to make sure that all Semantic certificates are distrusted. And after some negotiation, Chrome decided, because so many customers were actually in problems because of that, yeah, they gave them some time. So they gave it almost about a year that Semantic, they gave a time scale before all the Semantic certificates would be distrusted, so all customers could actually switch over to another CA. Now, this led into Semantic Web Security being sold to DigiCert, yeah? And now actually DigiCert, who was already very good as a certificate authority, is now actually servicing all these Semantic customers. Yeah. Okay, so here you have a few infographics. I'm not going to go in details. I think I shared them last time as well, about why poor certificate management is so important and why it damages your revenue, right? And then in the next slide, Bas, I'm going to give it over to you, and I'll let you explain a little bit more about the KeyTalk platform.
No, thank you, Johan. Okay, well, good morning and or good afternoon to everyone, depending on the time zone you're in. Yes, well, the introduction of Johan was quite clear, all about certificate management and the normal SSL control. But yeah, there are a lot of situations where you would need more than just the free SSL management tooling, especially ones coming from the CAs. What if you want to control your certificate and keys? Well, that's the part where we're going to discuss this a little bit more. And of course, we're going to talk in detail about one of the platforms, the KeyTalk Certificate and Key Management System, that provides that kind of functionality. But first of all, yeah, some questions on stuff you as an end user or as a partner would have on this frame. So yeah, if you choose for a DigiCert platform, you know for sure you will get the DigiCert certificates on your endpoints. But if you want to choose your own CA, yeah, then you need another certificate management. And what if you need to manage not only the public SSL and TLS X509s, but you want to issue your own self-signed certificates for user authentication, for email encryption or email signing, or even to secure all the lines to your web server, to your IoT devices, every X509 you can imagine, then you need something more. What if you want to issue and enroll short-lived machine certificates for authentication? And short-lived already were mentioned by Johan. We see more and more that especially in the period we live in now, where everyone works from home, that corporates first want to trust the device that connects to their network, and before they are sure that the machine is on and is definitely belonging to their corporate environment, they want a machine to have a short-lived certificate issued that proves that the machine is being a part of the corporate network. And for that, you need session certificates. And with these session certificates, the normal user can log on and can get their own access to the company network. What if you want to enroll and to configure certificates for use by an application? So not only getting the certificate in the key store of an endpoint, but also used by a web server. by an application, by a VPN client, or even completely configured for Microsoft Outlook or Outlook 365, yeah, then you need very clever certificate technology on the endpoint. A part of that can be provided, of course, like Johan already provided, by an Acme client. But that's basically focused completely around the SSL certificate distribution. An Acme client cannot do anything on a VPN client, cannot do anything on an Outlook or Office Outlook 365 environment to configure S/MIME certificates for use. What if you want to build your app and want this app to connect to your website for your services, but you want to do that more secure than the normal connection of to an HTTPS, so a web server, which is secured with a valid certificate. In the security community, it's known that if you connect to a website having an SSL certificate, it's sort of set only one way SSL. So a man-in-the-middle attack is quite obvious to if the information is really private or interesting to hack, especially bank information, stuff like that. Hackers are onto that. So basically, if you would like to build a more secure app, you in the ideal situation, you would have the app get a authentication certificate first to the endpoint, but that's difficult. And with the KeyTalk technology and the API client embedded in an app, it's possible to get a client certificate first on the app before the actual user authenticates to the network. And with that, you will have a very secure communication link to your web server. So these are the environments where you need more than just a certificate enrollment tool for SSL certs. Okay, on next slide. Well, if you have these questions, you should choose for a certificate and key management solution. So not only a certificate a tool that manages the certificates, but also your keys. And there are a lot. There are certificate and key management solutions that absolutely differ from the free certificate and management solutions provided by CAs. Of course, a certificate and key management solution, the difference is already in the name. It not only manages the certificates, but it can also manage the accompanying key pairs. And the key pairs being not only the public key connected to a certificate, but also the private key connected to a certificate. And that's where a lot of solutions who want to be in control of their own key sets use on-premise or in private cloud certificate and key management systems. So not provided on a hosted basis by a CA or another party. You should look at certificate and key management systems that have an internal CA, like Microsoft CA, but then way more manageable, where you can issue all kinds of self-signed certificates with all kinds of key length you want and all kinds of time validities you want. As I said, a system like that is typically installed on-premise or in the private cloud of the end user. So yeah, the customer has full control over the keys. And of course, a system like that can support multiple public CAs simultaneously, especially to avoid the situation like Johan explained with DigiNotar and or Semantic, where you will be dependent on one CA and you've enrolled all your certificates to all your endpoints. And then from one day to another, they are invalid. That could cause quite a lot of trouble in your network and your operational work. it should be possible to sort of say, okay, I know these are going to be invalid in the next weeks or even days. Okay, switch over to another CA as the provider of all the certificates, and renew all the certificates on all the endpoints that are managed automatically. That is something you really would like in your PKI environment. The system should typically make use of an intelligent agent installed on the endpoint. So not only what is sometimes preferred as we don't want an agent on the endpoint, just push it using SCAP protocol. Okay, for a lot of machines that is the case, but it's not very secure. And basically, it's the only way to do that is to get a certificate on the endpoint and get it in the key store. But at that point, the applications running on top of it, being a web server or an application that's making use of certificate technology, could be your ERP or CRM application. It needs to be configured, and a client or agent program on the endpoint that has that kind of technology that not can only distribute the certificate and install it in the key store on the endpoint, but can also configure the certificate for use on the applications running on the endpoint. And of course, there are so many that you cannot cover all functionality you need there, but most of the times end customers already have done extensive scripting facilities. So you would like an agent that can incorporate the already existing scripts you have to automate the enrollment of the certificate or the configuration of the certificate for use of the application. The agent on an endpoint is also capable of adding another very strong factor to machine authentication because it can check all kinds of parameters on the endpoint, and with that check, it can create a unique fingerprint of the device. And so if you do that, you would have a very strong factor of authentication before, for instance, you let a user on, because if you know the fingerprint of the hardware of the endpoint is correct, you can be, well, it's never 100%, but you can be pretty sure that the endpoint device is actually belonging to you as a company. Because it can manage keys, and it can optionally even generate the private key for key rollover. Key rollover is, in some issues, really relevant. The cases for where you have load balancers, a certificate and even a key pair should be identical on both machines. But of course, last but not least, key rollover is crucial in the area where you use SMIME certificates for email signing and email encryption, because there are very few people in the world who only have email on one device. Most people I know have an email on their laptop and on their tablet, and of course also on their mobile device. So you need to be able to read an encrypted email you send with your laptop and the answer back on your mobile in the evening. You need a complete duplicate certificate, including duplicate keys on all your devices that read the email. So for that, you need a system that can do key rollover. Okay, Johan, next slide. Well, the KeyTalk system, of course, is a certificate and key management system that can do all that. So that's why we are promoting that, of course. But why should you choose for the KeyTalk system? Well, basically, the KeyTalk agent has the possibility to optionally provide a very strong extra factor of authentication based on that unique hardware fingerprint of the device. That's relevant. We don't see that around. It uses patented technology already since more than 10 years ago to manage the private keys, to support key rollover and to distribute and install these keys safely to the endpoint. There are other applications that do that, and in fact, they violate our patents, but some of them are so big, so okay, we leave it. The KeyTalk agent is an intelligent agent. It's very flexible, and already available scripts at the corporation or at the end customer can be reused by the agent. Standard, it comes with an it's a virtual application, so it comes standard with an onboard database that is capable of storing a plus million devices. If that's not enough, you can set up your own database, MySQL database, and externally an enterprise one, and sort of from that point on, the capability is unlimited. Another really important difference between especially internal self-syn CAs deployed by Microsoft CA is that in a multi-domain environment, you need to set up a Microsoft CA server for every domain. Some customers of ours have like more than 50 or 60 domains, so it was very difficult to maintain. The KeyTalk system works fully network domain independent, so you just need one instance of the KeyTalk certificate and key management system to manage 2, 10, 50, or even 200 plus domains in one configuration. Another thing which in a very fast changing world is very handy, that we can build additional custom features from customers who say, oh, I have this new kind of application or device and it's not supported yet. Yeah, if the opportunity is there, we can plan it for additional functionality developed in the next available development sprint cycle. We develop very fluently on based on sprints. So yeah, the development of the KeyTalk system has, of course, a longer roadmap, but many of its development is customer-centric. Last but not least, but if you're interested, we'll come back to that, is the licensing and price model. It could be way interesting to look at the KeyTalk system and pricing model compared to the system you have now. Okay, and of course, if you consider to go for a system like this, you need it to be easy, especially in the implementation phase. If that takes like months or even longer, it's not very helpful, because mostly you need it like very quickly. And the KeyTalk system is very easy to implement, especially for the partners that are listening. They can support the end customers on a very easy basis to implement and help the customers to implement the system. The KeyTalk system comes as a pre-configured virtual machine running on a hardened version of Linux Ubuntu OS. The setup is very easy. You load it as an image in your VM environment, or in your public available cloud. And if you load the image, you're good to go. It's up and running then. So once you log on to the system, you set some basic network parameters. You set some firewall rules, of course, because the system needs to communicate with the outside world, especially if it connects to external CAs. You have to bind to the authentication system to your Active Directory or the Azure Active Directory, because of course, before it can issue certificates, it needs an authentication of the user or the actual machine that requests for the certificate. And once you set up your account profile with your preferred CA, or you configure the local KeyTalk CA as an alternative to the Microsoft CA server. Then you connect, of course, optionally to an HSM if you have very secure signing keys that you need. You can import, of course, the scan result from your complete network, not only from external SSL certificates, but the KeyTalk system comes with a certificate and vulnerability scanner. Right now, it's still a separate product, but there is a new release coming up. We developed the KeyTalk certificate and vulnerability scanner together with a partner of ours, which are specialized in ethical hacking. But the partner sold us the product, so the next release will be integrated in the KeyTalk CKMS Enterprise Edition. But still, the functionality is already available, but now as a separate product. So if you have the result of the scan of all your certificates in your network, you can then easily integrate it in the KeyTalk system and let the KeyTalk system take over the management. Of course, the last part is to roll out the KeyTalk agents. They are relevant. They are compatible with the Acme client provided by Let's Encrypt, but it has a lot more automated configuration functionality, especially in the area of user-based authentication and configuration. The strongest part is in the area where we configure the SMIME certificates for Outlook and Outlook Office 365. And even being able to change disclosures on Outlook emails. So if you have done that, you will have a managed PKI environment on server and user level. And basically, that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Bas. Okay, thank you very much, Bas. Thank you. So what we try to do with this webinar today, and I hope it worked and you guys see it, we wanted to show you that certificate management, where we explained last time the best practices to use for SSL are actually the same if you look at all X509 certificates. However, the platforms that are there are a little bit more complex, right? You need a more complex, you need a better system to actually manage all your X509 certificates. Yeah. If you just want to manage your SSL, then Search Central is of course fine, it's free. But if you want to do a little bit more than that and you want to keep control of everything X509 related, then you need a platform like this. Yeah, we wanted to keep it very high level today in this session, because once we have demo with clients, we actually go into very specifically what their environment looks like, what type of certificates they use, and we really do the demo very specifically for that client. Looking at the audience today, we also have some resellers, some system integrators on the webinar today. This is also something very good which you can offer to your clients and where you can help them with an implementation, for example, or an implementation on site. Yeah, can also be in the cloud, but you can help them configure everything. It's very powerful for that as well to offer to your clients. So of course, the system comes with the TrustCubes certificates, so you can get the TrustCubes certificates, you can get the DigiCert certificates from there. You have your backup CA as well available, so that's very good as well. Yeah, and then as a last slide, I wanted to talk already a little bit about the next webinar that we're going to host, which is going to be 2 weeks from now. It's going to go a little bit more in depth about SMIME, yeah, and client certificates, and what does that mean? What is a signed email? What is an encrypted email? And when are you going to use a signed email and when an encrypted? What is actually business email compromise? It's one of the most threats you hear in cybersecurity. What is it, and how can you easily prevent it? Yeah. And then if you already worked with SMIME, you know that enrollment of SMIME certificates and encrypting, you need the public key of the other person. It's a lot of hassle, right? It's not easy, but we made it very easy, and we made it automatically to enroll SMIME certificates on every device. And this is using exactly the same system as we talked about today. It's using the KeyTalk system, right? So this is something very interesting for our next webinar. So this was it. We're going to have a look at the questions and we'll answer those questions. I think we went a little bit over time, but we still have some time available to answer questions. So I'm going to have a look if there are questions. I'm not going to put this here. Okay. This is a question, Bas, this is a question for you. I don't know if you see it, but can the scanning tool also detect certificates deployed inside networking device, like, for example, load balancers like F5 or web servers like IIS?
That's a really good question. I would say yes, but we'll come back to that because I need the confirmation, of course, from the technical guys. So I'm the sales guy, so I probably always say yes, but that's not true. But no, we need to know sure that it's possible. So it's a really good question.
Okay, so another question is, how do you convince actually a partner to buy this product? Actually, how do we convince a customer or someone to buy this product? We mostly talk around certificate management and we have a look what they do today, right? And then we actually scope out how they do it today and we present the solution and show how we can make life easier for them. Yeah, a lot of customers come to us after something happens, right? After someone connected to their device or whatever, right? But what we mostly do is we go into a POC with the customer. We have a look at their certificate environment, and then we try to automate this as much as possible. Yeah. If you think about how many time is spent, it's going to be 2 or 3 persons sometimes if they have a internal PKI Microsoft CA. So it depends a little bit about which organization we're talking to, how big or how small it is. Yeah. Can I have a document after our webinar? Yes, we can share a document after the webinar. We can send you more information, but definitely we're also very open to have this face-to-face conversation, to have a demo, and so that you can actually see the platform and how it works. What are the segments we need to concentrate to sell this product? Bas, do you want to answer this question, or I can also go ahead?
Yes, of course, no problem. Well, basically, the segments are depending on the type of customers you have. We already have partners that sell the KeyTalk platform to customers who only want 25 licenses, so they only have like 25 certificates to manage. But because the system is like after it's implemented fully automated, you don't have to have a look around it. But of course, yeah, we have customers that have over 30,000 licenses. Because they are operational worldwide and want a combination of trusted certificates and internal self-signed certificates for machine authentication. So yeah, basically it depends on the type of customers you have yourself, but because every customer can use it, especially say the secure email service, it's available for up to 5 people. And if you have 5 people who are protected better than they are now, at the price that is mentioned, I should say go for it.
Maybe, Bas, if you could, can you discuss maybe a use case like, for example, ThyssenKrupp or what you did for Deutsche Bank? These are maybe very good relevant segments where we have existing customers.
We have quite a few larger operations. The ones using the internal KeyTalk system or the system that can even issue and deploy machine certificates from CAs. That's run at larger corporations, especially because they want to issue internal certificates on a short-lived basis to their machines for secure network authentication to their network, because they are working global on more than 1,000 locations. They don't have a normal grip on those machines, so they want to use the machine fingerprint authentication, so they know absolutely sure they issue the correct certificate to the correct endpoint, and when the machine is authenticated to the network based on that certificate, then, but only then, the user is allowed to log on to the network and get access to the network resources. So that's one case. We have the cases who are probably the majority, choosing for the secure email service based on the KeyTalk system, where it combines trusted S/MIME certificates with full automated installation of the S/MIME certificates on the endpoint, including auto configuration for use of Outlook and Outlook Office 365. The service works very well because it protects, but we'll tell that in 3 weeks more in depth. It protects you very well against a business email compromise, and it gives you the opportunity to internally encrypt, and even with the extended service to very quickly do full end-to-end encryption with your customers and end contacts who are outside your network. So that's the secure email service. Last but not least, we have like big customers who only want the basic version of the service just as a protection for a business email compromise. So they just want to use the S/MIME certificate for signing of emails. Basically, those are the 3 most relevant cases we have.
And another question here is, how do we approach the banking industry?
Well, the banking industry is, of course, an industry that is all about security. So the banking industry definitely uses not only trusted certificates on the outside, but goes for the full range. Many have self-signed certificates, so they have trusted communication between all servers, and especially in the banking industry, the information going through the bank service is so crucial and so relevant that we had a case where the customer wanted short-lived certificates that could only have a lifespan of 10 minutes. So a rogue admin would never have the possibility to get any crucial information from the servers, basically because the time frame of hacking it was so small. So yeah, there are different cases at banks. Even with secure development teams, you have to. Yeah, the only thing is, there are so much choices. You have to start a discussion with the bank. Where is the biggest pain right now? Because with this system, you can help them in sort of every use case in the X509 range that they have.
Yeah. Another question here is renewal. Renewal, is that a yearly cost?
Renewal from the licenses,
platform.
or
from the platform.
It's completely software as a service model. So you pay a yearly price where all support 24/7 second line, 5 to 9 first line, firmware updates, everything is included in the price, and yeah, you pay a price for the same license every year.
Yeah, and then you pay also the consumption of your certificates on top of that. So.
Yes, in the secure email service, it's a combined price. So you get the service and the actual valid S/MIME public S/MIME certificate is included in the service price. But for all other stuff, it's like a separate go, because the system can manage the certificates, but for all other options, you can separately buy the certificates from your CA.
Yeah. Another question is here, please share the technical details for support. So I just wanted to say on that point, what we're going to do is actually for system integrators and people who want to install this for customers, we're going to do a sort of training session. Yeah, we have several training sessions around the year, which is going to be a remote training session where we will actually tell you the ins and outs, how to install this for your customers. But we do also, for if you're an end customer, we also provide that support ourselves remotely if you want, if you have an IT team, and we also have documentation available. So we can share that if you want, or you can attend one of these training sessions. And then the last questions I see here, is this a tool that is also useful for the hospitality sector? So I think hospitals where a lot of IoT devices are also now connected. Do you have a use case there, Bas, that you worked with someone in the medical industry?
Yeah, we already hooked up with some partners in the hospitality sector. I don't think the X509 problems are like vertical based. They're all over the world. In all branches, you have this kind of issues. So, yeah, and because there are so much, what we did discover is that although it sounds very logically to use systems like this, we see really a lot of companies in the world, small, medium, big, who still have manual jobs on doing the PKI management, 2, 3, 4, 5 contacts, or even system integrators having 4, 5, 6 people doing the PKI management for their customer on a manual basis. Of course, that's in the old days was interesting enough because they could bill their hours for it, but in the end, with an automated systems, it's a lot more cheaper. So there are so much opportunities, and we see now because the IT infrastructures of the customers get more complex from a normal centralized IT environment to hybrid environments where they have to connect to basically half of their IT, which is coming from the cloud or private cloud. The connections get more complicated. The need for certificate management increases, so the need for automated systems increase. So that's basically what I can say about it.
Yeah, very good. Very helpful. Thank you. So I think we're at the end of our webinar. I thank everyone for joining and attending. This was also thank you for sending in those questions. If you want more information, we'll definitely follow up with some emails. Yeah, so you'll get a recorded version. You can also reach out to us. Oh, I see one question coming in. If we have competitors, yeah. So there are quite other companies that offer this as well, mostly in the high-end space. I think our pricing is what set us apart very much compared to those products. Like competitors are, for example, Venafi, Keyfactor. These are quite big ones, but I think. Yeah, Bas, is there something you want to say about those competitors and how we compete against them?
Well, basically, they're very big, very expensive. The price range differs between 4 to 6 times more expensive. Implementation takes between 3 to 6 months, whereas it's between 3 to 6 days. Flexibility, if you don't have the functionality you want, we could provide it in the next sprint cycle, so that basically could be done within the next 6 to 8 weeks. I wonder if the roadmap of companies like Venafi will be influenced by any of their mid-sized companies. Of course, if you're like I don't know, American Express or a very big large bank, they can influence the development cycle, but the effect on a new functionality probably will be there in the next release, which is like 12 to 18 months ahead. So flexibility is a difference, and of course pricing is a difference.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, very correct. Okay, so we'll end this webinar here. We'll follow up with some emails, but also feel free to reach out to us, and we are happy to book in a personalized demo to go into depth about your specific use case, yeah, for your company, or maybe if you're a reseller for your enterprises and how we could address that. We are always happy to do not only a demo, but also a POC. This is what we do most often, right? We do a POC to see if they like it, and then we go into production after that. So thank you very much for attending. Bas, thank you very much for hosting this meeting together with me and for sharing all this valuable information. Thank you.
Thank
Cheers. Have a good day.
for attending.